IITA is part of a consortium that works on climate smart coffee. You have knowledge partners. IITA is one of them, CIAT is one of them. Those are more the international partners. But within Uganda, we've been working with Nakori, for example. They're responsible for the research on coffee. But we also have impact partners. So you have to think about international NGOs, HRNS, for example, exporters. And then we also work together with the public sector, QCDA. So the main donors that are funding this research from the IITA side are USAID and BMZ. If you're thinking about how people see research in the past, is that it was very much about researchers and research organizations developing a product or a solution and then giving it to impact partners, and they would be scaling it and using it. But what we realize is that you don't have a lot of impact doing that. Often the solutions that a researcher creates are not necessarily adapted to the situation of the ones that are going to implement the solution. So what we decided to do is to talk with what we call our impact partners. And in this consortium of partners, it's the private sector.
The value of IITA's collaboration with Olam is twofold. One, it is an organization that does a lot of work, of course, on research and development, and we don't have a special department on that. And so they bring in lots of new ideas and new ways of looking at our operations and our engagement with smallholder farmers. So one is the innovation part. Second part is that even if we do good innovations and we are making good impact for the business as well as for the smallholder farmers, then if we shout it out ourselves, it doesn't have the same legitimacy as when you have a third party that is independent, helping you to collect data and create independent evidence to show that what you're doing is actually meaningful.
It's very important is, like prioritization and context-specific information. What's going to happen, for example, for Arabica in the Rwenzoris is not necessarily as relevant for Mount Elgin. So understanding the limitations for Arabica production in different areas makes you prioritize different practices and strategies. So what IITA tried to do is to take the concepts of climate smart coffee and climate smart agriculture into programs that were happening now with people working with farmers. And that is Stepwise. Often farmers only have a very little amount of money. They can't invest in all that extension package. So what Stepwise does is being smart about the recommendations you give to farmers in a way that you don't only see this as technical information, but also as a smart way to invest. For example, if I go and talk to farmers, they often what they say when I ask them, what do you need in order to increase yield? They will say, I need fertilizer. But often the same farmers are not weeding and not pruning. So if farmers are not weeding and pruning, it doesn't make sense to invest in fertilizer. So what we're trying to do is we're trying to detangle the big package of extension, I would say, in smaller packages that are more affordable to farmers, but at the same time taking into consideration agronomy. For example, don't put fertilizer on if you don't weed and prune. And instead of training farmers in everything, we kind of go through that stepwise process of investments, and then we think that they can incrementally increase yields to get to a point where they're happy, taking into consideration their, I would say, socioeconomic context. That's Stepwise.
The knowledge that IITA provided on farmer segmentation, so understanding that not all farmers have the same resources, the same ambitions, and therefore the same opportunities. And then, of course, trying to tailor advice to the level of ambitions and the resources that people have has been something which has been changing our philosophy quite a bit. So we are now implementing the same types of approaches on cocoa in West Africa, in coffee in Laos and in Burundi. The knowledge that IITA has been provided has been more changing the way how we engage with farmers and how we make investments, realizing that not every farmer can adopt the same package and can't deliver the same profitability, so we have to tailor that as well, otherwise we'll be losing our own funding as well.
We want to see a more sustainable coffee production, but taking into consideration the context of the farmers. So we don't only want to see more coffee, we also want to see a better livelihood for farmers and the contribution of coffee to that better livelihood. And so instead of us as research partners training, I would say 1,000, 2,000 or 5,000 farmers, we believe that our success will be in co-designing and co-creating solutions together with our impact partners, because in the end it's the impact partners that will reach many more farmers.
I think the long-term impact is that we will create more value from the investments that we have, and we put the farmers also at lower risk. So at the moment that we tailor our advice better to farmer needs, we'll put less risk on the farmer. We won't tell him to start putting fertilizers when his plants are actually not ready for that. Yeah? So I think we'll put the farmer at less risk, and we'll have higher efficiency and better returns to our investment.
So by working together and by putting, let's say, our solution and our knowledge into the brains of our impact partners, like the exporters, for example, and they will be then responsible to take on what they think is useful for them in their trainings, and then they will reach all the farmers. That's the idea.